Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. I'm back from Toronto, baby. Finally made it back. The video's a bit later than usual today because the flight got delayed, the train got delayed, all this stuff. Had a phenomenal time in Toronto, met loads of you guys, loads of new people. Lots of fun, always these events are. But I will say I've enjoyed being home a little bit just because don't have to, do ASMR in a hotel room at 7 AM to get the videos out. But I also have barely slept, so I'll certainly sleep well tonight. But there's plenty to get into today, especially with regard to the World Championship. Scump and Methods giving their thoughts on the bracket, why it might not just be very good for OpTic Texas theoretically, but also for the way the tournament could play out at large with the storylines that might well develop. Very much enjoyed to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I had a bit of a cheat code in this picture to be fair, because this was the day that I was on the desk, so they do all the makeup wizardry and stuff to make you look way better basically. But this was the result on the championship Sunday with subliners making this quite remarkable, it's got to be said, losers run. Looking at it like this, losing that 3-2 to Ultra, which they arguably could have won, beating Guerrillas 3-0, Legion 3-0, Mutineers 3-0, taking down Ultra in the rematch, beating Rokkr, and then taking down FaZe in 3 search and destroys. It's really interesting going into champs because if you'd have played that finals out 10 times, I think FaZe might have won 6 of them. They were playing very well, their respawn looks a lot better, they choked obviously moments such as this. I mean, I don't know what happened here, like this would have been the game pretty much, because if Cellium gets the kill here, they don't get 2v4'd, they close out the search, they would probably have won the control anyway, as they did just after this. Could have been a very different story. So I feel like if you play that grand finals out plenty of times, FaZe might well win the majority of them, even though subliners obviously played incredibly well, but that's just how things go sometimes with the percentage games that we are playing in sports. So what does that mean going into champs? Does it mean FaZe are favourites? That's obviously a big debate you guys might have in the comments section below. However though, what do you guys think about these teams? So here are certain players that are not going to be of course at the World Championship based on either poor performances this season or unlucky in some cases. I think Vegas are more unlucky than anything because had they started the season with this roster, I think they'd have made it, to be honest. But they started off with the Pro Loot team, they had the 2 Real team, neither of which were particularly good. Changes were inevitable, they made some, Standy came in, and they, definitely started to improve. So who out of these 16 is going to be in the league next year? I will say that a lot of the Vegas guys will be. I expect Clayster to be. I think he'll either return to Vegas or a team like Boston. I mean, Boston are crying out for a player like Clayster, to be honest, to join their midst. So we'll see. I think Clay will stay around either on a Vegas, a Boston, or even potentially better than that. Temp should still be here. Like, I imagine the entirety of Vegas will be here. Probably not as the same roster, let's be honest, but I imagine all those 4 players will be in the league somewhere or another. Mutineers, I would say Vickle will stay with the Mutineers because if they do become the Miami Heretics, then, Spanish heritage, he's probably going to be there with that Spanish roster they're trying to form. That's the rumor. I don't know what happens to Brack. I'm less confident on him. Fellow, maybe, maybe not. Capsule would be the other one that I feel like has a good chance. I think he really turned up lately and proved that he is a Pro League caliber player. Guerrillas, Arcitys will get back in because he's Arcitys 2 World Championship victories. The other guys, it might be a bit more of a struggle. I think especially for Assault and Exceed maybe. Even though Assault I think probably outperformed Arcitys this year. That's just how it goes sometimes. JoeDeceives, if it was anything to build around on Guerrillas, I would probably build around him. Probably the brightest spot from this team. And then you get to London. Nasty is absolutely a Pro League caliber player, as is Asim. I wasn't particularly impressed by Scraps and iLLeY this year. So I would say out of these 16, we're going to get 5, 6, 7, maybe 7 or 8 of these stay in the league at the start of next season. Maybe more, maybe slightly less. But that's my prediction as it stands. Intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Jacob L also did mention the point of it wanted to load about running it back for Vegas next year. Was it Benjay Naseem that mentioned last year, like running back that Paris team with whatever terrible roster they had at the end of the year, like with Jimbo and Johnny or something, and trying to make it work again? So they didn't obviously do that, and it obviously worked out for them this season by being more competitive, at least Vegas, and having a more interesting storyline. Didn't make champs, but it is what it is at the end of the day. So look, would they run it back again? It's actually quite interesting because I'm sure they feel like their team is pretty good, but it's probably not good enough, to be honest, right? Over the course of an entire season, maybe they'd be the 8th best team, but they're still not anything spectacular. So I guess we'll see. But I do wonder, especially with teams like Surge, and I think especially Surge, having some serious clear-outs, there's going to be some really interesting conversations to be had over the coming weeks. Clay also does respond to this as well and says, going to take a few days to decompress, but daily streams will be coming back in business when I'm guessing this is Diablo 4 launches. Still a lot up in the air regarding next season and all that, but I'm just going to let it be as it comes. And I think he's also going to be in Vegas probably for the World Championship, so that's nice to see. But he says, look, he doesn't really know what's going to be happening next season. It's all up in the air, and honestly will depend depends in huge part on what happens at the World Championship, and the storylines there are already starting to form. We got this as well between Standy and Arcitys, my duo, all of this stuff. Arcity's interesting character, right, because I think everybody knows that he checked out a bit this season from the frustrations with the Los Angeles Guerrillas. If he has one more year of that, then he probably won't get back in the league, but I think for now he should be fine, and he's, you know, got good connections with other teams and potentially other players, that if changes are going down for players like Standy, like Arcitys, that aren't competing at champs, might already be cooking up some sort of interesting things come at Rostermania, which is going to be massive this offseason, I'm sure of it, especially with all the rumours circulating around what Los Angeles Thieves might do, with them all being unrestricted free agents, with many teams wanting to cut salaries. There's so many things that are going to happen this Rostermania. Like, don't expect many teams to stick. I would be very surprised if more than a couple of them do, to be honest. So let's talk about the OpTic side of things and what will happen potentially at the World Championship, because they obviously had a really tough time at Major 5. They got bodied, didn't even win a map, and that's going to knock their confidence massively, and for good reason, going into the big one. This, just by comparison, is last year's bracket. This went down in 2022. We had actually 7 of the same 8 teams. FaZe, New York. Last year it was Ravens that made it instead of the Minnesota Rokkr, because they had a great start to the season. Surge, OpTic, Ultra, Thieves, Breach. That was your kind of setup last year, and it's very similar this year again, with this being the prevailing bracket we currently have going into the big one. So this is based on the standings as we saw just yesterday, with OpTic being the 2nd seed, just about over the subliners, Breach being the 7th seed. That's arguably the best possible first round matchup, and that's what Scump and Co say here. And he says, look, he really likes this game for the OpTic guys, and you can absolutely understand why. It's probably the best first round game you could possibly get, but also in terms of the way the rest of the tournament goes, it sets up some really interesting storylines. OpTic should be massive favourites to win round 1, but if they win that, they'll play a subliners team that just won the tournament, or potentially Rokkr if they can upset, which is unlikely, but you never know. It's percentages, right? Anything is possible. And the upper bracket, you're likely to get FaZe versus either Ultra or Thieves. And FaZe versus Thieves, we know how good a rivalry that is, how good a rivalry that, you know, can and will be going forwards. Even Thieves versus Ultra is kind of interesting as well, because they have some interesting matches in their history, but there's not actually too many of them. Scrappy and Drazah on the other side of the stage is always going to be kind of entertaining. So lots of interesting things to look at here with this bracket, and this is what they have to say.
And there it is, the official champs bracket.
I'm liking that bracket.
I mean,
New York, Rokkr, OpTic, Breach, Ultra, Thieves, round
the top
1.
side of the bracket's crazy.
FaZe, Surge.
Yeah.
Champs, the stage is set.
Unbelievable. And yes, there is definitely an argument for Hydra being...
Absolutely unbelievable, but that man Hydra just had one of the greatest tournaments
I'm not sticking around. I'm going to bounce.
And there it is. Yeah, it's solidified now. We take on Boston and winners round 1 at Champs. What do you think about that? It's only right.
Boston don't look good. I mean, they've really, they lost to London. They lose a round 11 to Rokkr. Round 11 to Rokkr, okay. You know, close series. Rocker's looking good. That's okay. The London loss makes you worry for Boston.
Yeah.
For OpTic, short-term memory.
I love that first round for OpTic.
Yeah, short-term memory.
So what do you guys expect to happen as a result? Because the reverse sweep guys came up with their predictions on what's going to happen in this tournament. I believe they took Toronto to win this, actually, as the champions of the tournament. But so they had FaZe beating Surge, Ultra beating Thieves, OpTic beating Breach, and Subliners beating Rokkr. So already that sets up a banger OpTic versus Subliners semi, a banger FaZe versus Ultra semi. It could even be FaZe Thieves. I hope we get FaZe Thieves this tournament. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a FaZe Thieves final. I mean, it's kind of unlikely because one of them will be in losers by round 2, so they would have to make a serious run. But, you know, it's definitely possible that it could happen. Just like we had last year again, right? So I imagine, I haven't listened to this episode yet, I haven't had the time, unfortunately, but I imagine Aix was pushing pretty hard for Toronto. I do think they're a very good team. They're well structured and organized. Do they quite have enough at the end of the year, especially given what we just saw from FaZe? Can OpTic regain is the other key storyline for me, and it's set up perfect for them to, you know, the storylines are set up really well with this bracket, right? Because OpTic, we know they need to regain. They've got arguably the best first round game to do so against a struggling Boston Breach that's in a bit of chaos, actually, because they don't know what they're going to try and do with their roster, as far as I'm concerned, going into the big one. So, you know, that should be a bounce back for OpTic, but then it comes down to how they can push on from there, especially when they have lost to Breach in the first round of a tourney before, back at their home major at Major 3. They got 3-0'd by Boston in about 45 minutes. minutes, and then went on to make the crazy losers bracket run all the way to the grand finals. So the reverse sweep, guys, they've got OpTic making the finals up against Ultra, because if OpTic FaZe happens, as it could well do in the winners finals, we know that's a matchup that OpTic are heavily favoured in. Even if FaZe right now are playing better COD, will that be the case by the time we get to this event? Who knows? And it feels to me, especially after this past weekend, it's pretty much anyone's to win. I would say 5 teams can win champs, which is a fantastic feeling to have. That either OpTic, we don't know what we're going to get from OpTic, but OpTic could win champs. There's absolutely no denying what they're able to accomplish when they actually play well. FaZe, I mean, that doesn't, you need a new explanation there. Subliners just win the last event. Ultra also have won an event this year and still look very competitive. And then Thieves are the reigning world champions and Major 4 winners. So all of those 5 teams, and then you've got Boston, I'm not so convinced by. Surge, pretty terrible. Okay, they've got the talent, but I just can't see any of those teams, or even Rokkr, getting to like the grand finals, right? I think the top 2, maybe top 3, you get a sneaky team like a Rokkr that maybe makes a crazy run in there, but I think the grand finals will be between 2 of those big 5 teams, and whoever wins probably just comes down to who turns up on the weekend, which is a really exciting feeling to have, because I think that's pretty much what happened last weekend, and it's going to be a similar story as it always is in a couple of weeks' time. I will also mention this, because I think you guys might find it quite interesting here, that Hitting Gold points out the online versus LAN CDL points. Now, you can perceive this as who's the onliners and who's not the onliners. Often it comes down to who's won events on LAN, because if you win LAN events, you get a lot of points, right? So FaZe have won one. I mean, they got 65 for a LAN victory, but they've got only 150 online, 235 on LAN. So more on LAN than online. This is only for the teams that made champs. For the teams that didn't make champs, they make all of their points online, because teams like London, they won, what, 1 match on LAN this year to get 10 points from LAN, so congratulations. So basically all of their points are from online, whereas for the top teams, it's usually a bit of a different story here. Thieves more on LAN than online, Ultra more on LAN than online, same with the subliners, they won 2 events, so I guess it makes sense. Rokkr dead flat. Boston are, by the numbers, the biggest onliners by far, 140 online points, the biggest sound EQ merchants by far as well, 50 points on LAN. Is it the same story for OpTic? I think that's probably one step too far, just because OpTic, they got the back-to-back seconds. The first event of the season with a different team, they got top 12. This recent top 12, though, does require some serious explanation, to be honest, because they now drop significantly behind their contemporaries in terms of online versus LAN differential. But 2 players that are certainly going to be there at the World Championship are these 2. This is pretty much, I think, what it comes down to as the MVP race. You could throw maybe Octane into the mix, maybe Scrappy into the mix, maybe Dashy into the mix, but I think that's a bit of a stretch. To me, it's between these 2 for the MVP race. It's not all about the numbers, but still, Hydra got 2 major wins, 1 major MVP, the 3rd seed going into champs, you know, 1.17 overall, 1.2 KD in Harpo, 1.27 in Search and Destroy. Pretty similar, but actually better for Hydra by the numbers. Obviously, he had more event wins as well. This doesn't fully compare what they do for the team, because aBeZy is incredibly valuable in his playstyle for the roster, but fundamentally, is aBeZy more valuable than Hydra right now? Because if they didn't have aBeZy FaZe, they've still got Simp, Slasher, and Cell. Like, that ain't a bad trio. Whereas if you remove Hydra from the subliners, they aren't winning anything. Let's be like, maybe they make top 4, but I mean, I don't think they're getting much better than that. So that's maybe one of the questions you guys might want to consider. But very much enjoyed to all your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.